welcome to Season 2, Episode 4.
Love and Lockup. But
Before
before we get into any episode,
we gotta crack them.
crack the claws, y'all.
Cheers,
Crack the
girl.
claws. Cheers.
Yeah.
So this episode today was a really interesting episode,
Yeah.
and we definitely learned a lot.
We learned a lot. So if you can't tell from the title, we are talking about loving somebody who's incarcerated, and had the chance to interview this incredible woman, Haley.
Yes.
Reyna's known her for years,
Mhm.
and her husband's in prison.
Her husband is in prison, and it's a fucking fucked up story. And I'm so grateful that she came on to share it with us, because statistics say that half of Americans know or have somebody that they love that's incarcerated, or has been incarcerated. So it definitely affects so many fucking people, but we don't hear anybody really talking about it that much.
No.
And she is like literally the first person that I've seen, like on her Instagram, share pictures of her husband and their family, in prison, or, their visits and stuff. And so I just felt like that was just like amazing.
Yeah.
Because there ain't no shame in it, and that is what we're trying to do, especially with this episode, is take away that shame, because for some reason it gets attached to the person who loves somebody that's incarcerated.
Exactly. And it's totally like there, but for the grace of God, go I kind of thing. Like almost everyone I know has done something illegal at some point in their life.
Yeah,
Like just a, range of things.
totally.
And, was lucky not to get caught. And what I really appreciated about Haley's interview is she just honed right in on the humanity of incarcerated people and the humanity of their loved ones. And it's sad that we even have to say these are human beings, but we live in a fucked up prison state.
Yeah.
And I think she did such a beautiful job showing the human side of the story, and doing so without unnecessary shame that she doesn't have to carry her, she shouldn't have to carry her whole.
Right. Yeah, because she shared with us, the lack of humanity that the prison system gives to people that are either guilty or not guilty. I don't fucking know. Even before they're even convicted, it's all it's horrible. It's shitty. The system sucks. We need to find a better way. We need to start talking about this shit so people become more aware of what is actually going on. It's not fucking Orange is the New Black. It's like, you know what I mean? It's intense, know? So we hope you enjoy this episode. We hope you get something from it. If you know somebody or love somebody that's incarcerated, we hope this helps you. And Haley, just much love to you and your family.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing with us today. And
here's Haley. Hi, Haley. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
I'm very excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you on. Especially because this topic, like having a loved one who's incarcerated, is something that we both think is pretty misunderstood, and this is an experience that's not talked about very much. So we're really excited to get into your story today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to share it. I'm excited to kind of make a more clearer picture of what it's like to have a loved one incarcerated, or if you've been incarcerated, how that feels, because it's not talked about, and it's sad. It's sad. Yes,
definitely. It's sad. And you know what? I was looking up the statistics before we started recording today, and it said almost half of Americans have had a loved one incarcerated at some point in their life.
I believe that.
Insane. And nobody talks about it,
Nobody talks about it. And part of that reason is because it's almost like you carry a shame, or, it's a stigma, it's like, oh, well, where's so-and-so? And all of a sudden you have to like figure out how to talk about it. And then if you're comfortable talking about it, it's almost like, okay, well, what's the other person going to think about this if I let them know that, my loved one is locked up?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of judgment am I going to get from this person? So it's like you almost have to like feel your way around, certain people, because you don't know what type of reaction you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
um I've had to lie to people.
Mm-hmm.
um I guess I can start with that. I mean, I've had to lie to my own grandmother for a long time. It was probably
Mm-hmm.
9 months before I actually told her the truth about,
Mm-hmm.
my loved one being locked up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we always lied to her and said that he was working, at family events. So because you just never know what you're gonna get, and
Mm-hmm.
some people are so judgmental,
Yeah.
or they make you feel like shameful for being in this situation, even though
Yeah.
you're not the one incarcerated. So
Totally.
it's different. It's hard to navigate sometimes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, so do you want to share with us where this all started, how this all began, and how you met your loved one, or however you want to start, wherever you want to start your story?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure. I'll
what's
give
the
you
story?
the short version.
Uh,
So Albert and I met back in 2017.
mhm.
I was going through, like, I want to say it was a midlife crisis, but we'll say a quarter life crisis. Met him out and about, and he was mutual friends with one of my friends, and we just kind of clicked, and the rest kind of came history. We, started dating. I got pregnant really quick with my son. 6 months after that, we got married, and yes, it was
Boom, boom,
very,
boom.
very, it was very, very quick.
Yeah.
Furious. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were married for about a year and I want to say 4 months or so. And he kind of got wrapped up in some things that he shouldn't be wrapped up into. I want to say
Mhm.
wrong place, wrong time. You hear that a lot. And a
Yeah.
lot of that is very, very true.
Yeah.
Um, he just got in trouble and mixed around with the wrong type of people and got, blamed for things that he didn't necessarily do.
Mhm.
Um, and so he got taken away. I can tell you the day after he went in for the first time, I had to go sit in on his court date. And I was devastated because I didn't know what was going on.
Mhm.
Um, I knew he had been taken away, but I didn't know what for.
Mhm.
Um, so going and sitting in court and waiting for his turn to go up and him stand in front of the judge and then read
Mhm.
off, his charges was devastating.
Yeah.
And then, meeting with his, lawyer, which was the public defender, and we all know how public defenders are. They don't really care about the outcome. They just want to get
Mhm.
paid and, get it over with, essentially.
Mhm.
And so he, briefly told me what was going on and what was going to happen. And that was pretty much it. And I couldn't talk to my husband. I couldn't do anything.
Mhm.
The system is just so wild. I never really understood, or I guess I was really naive to
Mhm.
the point that like I didn't realize all the crap that goes on behind, like what we see,
Yeah. Yeah. We see
I
what's in the movies or
we see
yeah,
what's in the
TV
movie.
shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cut and clear. And you know what? It is just not. It is not. It's so the system just beats people down, especially when you have a prior record or if you're a certain race
Yes.
or it's just, I don't know. It blew my mind. I started doing a bunch of research and I came to realize that we weren't going to get out of this.
Yeah.
So here we are. Here we are
Mhm.
now. And he finally got sentenced literally a year later and got taken to prison.
Shit.
And yeah, yeah. So
And were you
it's a very,
pregnant?
I
Or
had
did you
already
already had your
I
son?
already had my son.
Huh?
When he went in for the first time, Charlie was about to turn 1.
Mhm.
So he wasn't even 1 before my husband got taken in.
Mhm.
So
So we got to meet Charlie.
Yes,
he was there
for birth. He was there for almost a year of his life. So he got to experience, you know, that part.
Yeah.
He's missed out on a lot of, you know, other, you know, opportunities to see his son grow, which is super sad because we don't, especially, you know, during the pandemic, we don't get to visit. So and that's really hard. There was no one on his team like trying to fight for him, and he would have lost. What I learned was that public defenders work really closely with, you know, prosecutors. They essentially just want to get the conviction. They don't care.
Yeah.
They get money off of getting that conviction. The jails get money off of getting that conviction. So they don't care.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah. So
and it's fucking shitty because it's like mostly men of color that get this fucking treatment. You know, it's not it's not fair. You know, the system is so fucked in that way. Yeah.
It is so messed up. And I mean, and I'll just tell you guys, I mean, my husband is Hispanic, and he has a prior record. When he was 17, he got into some trouble, and then he got out and he was doing really well. And then he got wrapped up in this kind of stuff, and they take one look at your priors and they're like, all right, well, you're done. So we're just going to send you off and you're just going to deal with it. So it's just like, they don't take a look at like, oh, well, he's established a family. He has a job. He's, you know, doing this, this, and that. You know, he is doing well. He just was at the wrong place at the wrong time. But they don't care. They just want their conviction and they want to just go on about their business and they want to get it over and done with.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the parts of the system all kind of collude with each other, like you're saying. And this is something I think about with just the fact that like district attorneys are elected. So it's a political position and there's motivation to show like X number of convictions, X number of closed cases that really seems to get in the way of actual justice for a lot of people.
Right. And that's why so many people that don't or shouldn't be sitting are sitting in prison for no reason. And it's partly because of, you know, their race. They have priors. They don't have money for a good lawyer. It's so many things. And it's just like they look at everything. And if you're lower class, you know, they look at that too. You know, you can't win.
Yeah.
You just can't win. Yeah.
It's really rigged toward who has money, power, privilege, all of it.
God.
You've seen it, you know, in you know, cases like the Turner case. He had money.
Oh, Brock Turner. Yes.
Yeah, Brock Turner. His family had money. He got away with raping a girl.
Yeah.
And he actually did the act.
And he actually did it.
He got caught in the act, right?
He got caught in the act.
God.
And I think he sat in protective custody for 6 months, and that was it. Like what? I don't understand.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind.
Oh, is that your son?
My child. Yes.
Hi, Casey. They're really just in like the carceral system. We have like people who are considered by society like throwaway people, quotation marks, and people who, this would ruin this young man's life. And it's just so fucked that we really have two systems.
Right.
On who you are.
Two systems. Exactly. I couldn't have said it any better. It's just completely opposite of, you know, the system I've experienced or the system my husband has experienced. You know, you see so many instances of these wealthy people getting off because they have money. And I mean, Brock Turner is just a minute, you know, part of it, you know, and that's what's so frustrating.
I'm kind of wondering if you could share with our listeners what it's been like for your family through COVID, because so many of us who don't have a loved one who's incarcerated, you know, we like to like bitch and complain about like, oh, like my favorite bar is closed, or you know, like the way it's impacted everybody's life significantly.
It's all relative, okay?
But I think that incarcerated people are a very forgotten group of people in the pandemic, and the impact has been really hard in prisons. And I just was wondering if you could share what it's been like for your family, and like on top of just dealing with the pandemic like everyone else has had to, you also have to deal with a pandemic in which your husband is in prison.
You're cut off from each other, like more so than you already are,
than everybody else.
Well, you know, I mean, it's been crazy because, you know, all over the news, there was outbreaks in the prisons, and then they'd have to go on lockdown. So when they lockdown, we literally would have no communication because he couldn't come out to call. You know, they have these tablets. If you purchase these tablets that you can message on, but they're so crappy that they don't always work. So you'll get the message like 5 days later and you're like, oh, well, cool. So, I mean, they'd be on lockdown for days, and would only be able to come out, you know, to literally shower, and then you'd have to go right back in. So it's just like, first off, that's inhumane because these guys are in these cells for 23 hours. And that's it. They're not getting anything. And so that's been really hard for my husband's mental state. And then when we are able to communicate, it's hard on me because I'm just like, I don't know how to help you. I can't help you. It's hard because, you know, I've been here. I've, you know, been having to hold down the fort, essentially. I'm the one that's, you know, been having to literally get up every day and go to work. I have to figure out where my son is going for childcare. And at this point, you know, when COVID first hit, you know, a lot of the childcare is shut down. So I'm like, okay, so what am I supposed to do? Like, I still have to work. I still have to figure out how to, you know, make ends meet. It's only me. And I feel like sometimes I almost resent Albert because he's gone. He left us here, and I'm stuck here trying to figure it out on my own. I'm raising my son on my own. And I essentially, I didn't sign up for that. You know, I didn't sign up for that. However, then I kind of reel it back in, you know, to reality. And I'm just like, it's not anyone's fault. You know, he has to do his time. He chose to take a deal so that he could come home sooner rather than face trial and get way more time than he was given. If he would have went to trial and he would have lost, he would have got 30 plus years.
Holy shit.
Jesus.
30 plus years. Because he took a deal, he only had to do 3 years. So he had no choice. So hard. And it's just like you hear about prisons and their programs. They're supposed to help inmates and them do better or have all these, you know, different programs or whatever. And they're not really offered. Albert hasn't been offered any type of program, any type of work program for him, nothing at all. And it's just like he gets to see his counselor every so often to discuss like, you know, what it's going to be like when he comes home or what he has to do to be able to come home. But it's been like very few and far between. So it's crap. It's crap. They say that they have all these resources and they don't have any resources. It's just like, you wonder why you get so many repeat offenders is because they're not set up to come home and succeed. You literally have to, I can use this for an example, drug dealers. They go in on drug charges. They are expected to then go out. They have to complete certain courses when they get home. So they have to go report to a PO, a parole officer, and then they're given a list of things that they have to do. And you have to pay for these things. Well, if you have a background, jobs don't necessarily take you very often. It's so hard for people who have been locked up to get jobs. So then you have these drug dealers who are trying to pay for these courses to get out of the mess that they're in so that they can stay out of jail, and they can't. So what do they result to? they result to going back and selling drugs, and then they're back in the same place that they started.
Yeah.
So it's just like they don't help you. You have to pay for everything, and if you don't have a job, how are you paying for this? If you don't have a family that's going to help you, you know, and a lot of these guys don't, and women don't either. And so here we are. You know, that's why so many people go back in. It's so stupid.
Yeah, and then it just builds and builds. When I was in grad school, I interned at a intensive outpatient clinic for drugs and alcohol, and almost all of our clients were like, nobody was self-referred. Everyone was there basically because they were on probation. And I saw exactly what you're describing, you know, like this is like, and all of my clients like fundamentally were good people that got caught up in some difficult situations for a variety of reasons, got caught up in systems for a variety of reasons. And it is just like a snake eating its tail. Like it's just a cycle that so many people get trapped in. And it's really sad.
Yeah.
It's so sad. And it's just like, you would think that if your system put in place, why wouldn't you give people the tools to succeed and not go back in? Like have them learn their lesson the first time and then get out and then succeed in life. And then they're done.
Yeah.
You know, and then teach the next person that lesson, you know, and send them on their way.
Right.
Like,
why? Because it's a fucking business. That's why.
Yeah.
It's a for-profit business.
Yeah.
And
I think that needs to be said.
Also people going to prison. And that's exactly right. I mean, they make so much money. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
I every quarter the guys get like food boxes because they get, you know, pretty crappy food, and then they're you know, treated to these food boxes. Of course they cost money, and you're only allotted like a certain, you know, weight amount that you can give them. But this is like Dollar Tree stuff that you're purchasing for these inmates. And they rack up the prices so much. I'm not even joking. I think the most I've spent is $250 on like 20 items.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
Not to mention when you have to put money on for the phones, that goes quick.
Wait, you have to pay for the calls?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How much is it a minute? I know it's really, really expensive.
I don't know. I don't know what it is a minute, but every week I put $20 on, and it will last us probably until Thursday. And then I have to reload. Fancy little tablets that they have, they can send messages. Well, those messages also cost money.
So it's fucked up, dude.
It's terrible.
Can you share with us your experience? You know, you started a little bit in the beginning talking about your friends or your family members, and how you've had to kind of navigate, you know, through different friendships, or if you lost people, or, you know, kind of, or lost friendships, I mean, along the way. How has that been for you, having a loved one, you know, incarcerated in prison?
Well, I've kind of talked a little bit about my grandmother. She's, you know, very, very judgmental. So everyone knew, as far as like my mom and my sister, my brothers and my dad, that we were just not going to say anything because it was just not worth it, you know. And then I remember I got kind of irritated. She made a comment at a family dinner, and I'm just like, you know what, Grandma, he's not here because he's locked up. And she just kind of like looked at me like just appalled. And I'm just like, I don't really care. And at that point I didn't care anymore. I was done feeling shame, you know, because you know, on top of my grandmother being very judgmental, I do have a lot of judgmental friends, and they're like, well, why are you staying with him? Like you can move on. Like, why? And I'm just like, well, it's not that simple. Like, first off, like, I know what my husband did, he didn't do. You know, he's in there for something he didn't do. And I feel like he doesn't really have a strong support system like on his side. So I had to be that support. You know, if anyone was going to support him, it was going to be me. And I can tell you, at first, you know, my mom, she was just 100% always there, ready to be supportive. She she was great. She was so supportive in the beginning, and still is, but like it was so hard in the beginning. I was just crying all the time. I was a mess. I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know how I was going to get through with, you know, being like a single parent essentially.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was just devastated. But
You're like, I'm a new mom too.
I'm a new mom. I was still super, you know, hormonal
baby.
on top of it. Like I'm still learning everything about being a mom. Like it was just super hard. My dad at first, it took him some time. I remember we got into a heated conversation and he was just like, well, you know, why would you stay with him if that's what he did? I'm just like, you don't know the full story. And you know, I'm not going to discuss this with you if this is how it's going to be. Well, he ended up coming around. I think it was after maybe the third or fourth court date that Albert had, where there was some evidence that came back that proved that it wasn't him. But that's beside the point. Then my dad was kind of more like on board with being supportive, you know, and so my immediate family has been great. My sister is just wonderful. She just helps so much, you know, and now we're at the point where, you know, my husband will call my mom and talk to her and, you know, talk to my dad, and because he doesn't have that family type support on his side. So, and I mean, it's important for him and it's important for me that he feels support for more than just me, because I know how it is. Like I'm not just his wife, but I'm his wife. And of course I'm going to be there, but it's important that he feels support elsewhere as well, you know?
So immediate family has been wonderful. That's great for you. How have you coped, like personally, throughout this whole thing? What have you done to help yourself, or, you know, that you think would help others get through, you know, similar experience?
I can say at first, like I said, it was really, really hard. I had my moments where I just broke down, and I'm not the crier. Like I don't cry in front of people. I normally just bottle it in, and then when I'm by myself, I just let it all out. And that happened for probably about a year and a half. And then this last year or so, I've felt stronger, because I'm doing it by myself. Like I've figured it out. Like there are moments, like I said, where I resent, you know, my husband because he got into trouble and he went away, and I'm here trying to figure it out, and he isn't here with his family. But then there's other times where I'm just like, I'm a badass bitch. Like I can do this.
Yes.
I'm doing it. Like I'm making it work. Like I'm doing it. I get up every single day. I make sure my son's taken care of. We have a roof over our head. Like everything is just, we're golden. But I can say that there are moments where I still I struggle sometimes because it's lonely. You know, it is lonely. I'll be sitting here and I'm just like, well, it'd be cool if my husband was here, like holding my hand, watching a movie or something, or watching our favorite shows. But
I'm putting Charlie to sleep right now. I'm joking.
I know. Anything, you know. But I guess any like advice I would give to someone is just hang on. Just hang on and find things that are going to make you happy, because you have to keep going. Life doesn't stop. It does not stop, and you just have to find things that make you happy, and you just have to keep going. You know, that's all you can do. And just know that, you know, obviously my situation is a lot better than some others. You know, Albert got 3 years. You know, that's very small compared to some people whose loved ones are away for 10 years, 15, 20. You know, I'm in a group with some wives that have their, you know, loved ones away.
I was going to ask about that.
And it's been really great. Like I don't know any of these people personally, but it's been a good resource. You know, some of these women, their husbands have been away for 20 years and they're still together. And I'm just like, and I sit here and think, and I'm like, could I do that? could I sit here for 20 years and wait for my man to come home? It's amazing. And some of these women are just so strong, and you're like, but then you also see, it's kind of fun because it's kind of like drama sometimes.
Other people's mess can be
Other people's
fun.
mess. I'm just like, okay,
better than your own, right?
But I'm here for it. Let me just read these comments. But some of these women go through really hard times. I mean, there's men out there that will put themselves on dating sites and they get multiple girlfriends while they're in prison so that they're very well taken care of. I mean, that's a thing.
Wow. Yeah.
That is a thing. And I always tell my husband, I'm like, if I ever see your ass on one of those websites, sir, I tell you what.
You better be sending me some of that fucking money.
I'm like, that's fine. But you better be sending it home because let's set ourselves up, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's like, I would never do that because that's just crazy. And I remember going to visiting one time, and my husband was like giving me all the gossip. He likes the gossip. Giving me all the tea with all the other like guys in there, and he's like, that girl over there, that girl he met online. And I'm just like, oh, okay. He's like, but he's married. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I catch your ass doing that, you're cut off. And he's just like, oh, it's just interesting. He's like, I just like to know everyone's business. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. I mean, that's all you have to do in there is to just know everyone's business.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it's just so boring.
I
like
can't
day
even
to
imagine.
day. Like there's so much like Hollywood, TV, whatever.
I know.
But like it's just gotta be so boring on both sides, just waiting.
Yes. I mean, I can kind of add to like how I've, been or during this time. And it's just like, I'm very to myself now. Like COVID, of course, so you can't really do much, but like we're home all the time, like other than work and, my son going to daycare, like we don't really do much. And it's just like, I'm okay with that. But also like I would rather have my partner out so that I can be out and about with them, It's weird. It's just weird doing things on your own. I'm not saying I can't do things on your own and you shouldn't do things on your own, because you should. It's very healthy to do that. But it's just, I'm doing it.
No, but you got married, and you're in a very early relationship with somebody, you haven't known each other for very long. Outside of this whole situation,
Exactly.
I mean, you've been in this situation longer than you guys were together before, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so we were just talking about this too. It's like, we'll be married for 4 years in August. And by the time he went in, and by the time he gets out, we would be married more time that he was in than he's been out. Yeah. So it's kind of a weird concept, because it's just like, wow, I only know you. I know you as, prison Albert, and not really my husband outside Albert. It's so interesting, and it's just wild. It's just so wild. Sometimes I just sit here and I think about it, and I'm just like, wow, I'm just mind blown at the system and how it works and how it's, eats you up and then spits you out, and you're just supposed to be normal.
Right. And you're like, we're good people. You know what I mean? Like, we're good people.
And that's another thing. It's just like going into visiting, and, the people who are working the prison just look at you like you're just garbage. Yeah. They just look at you like you're trash. And I'm just like, I am a good person. Like, I work a 9-to-5 job. I pay my bills. I pay my taxes. Like, I am a good girl. I don't do anything bad. And my husband is a good person too. Yeah. And you're looking at me like I'm scum of the earth because I'm here visiting my husband. It's so weird.
And it's so crazy that you have to even go there, to prove yourself to somebody. Like, you know what I mean? Even if you weren't a good person, or even whatever defines a good person, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, it's just, you feel like this unworthiness, or like, I can only imagine, because I have a loved one that's in jail right now, and showing up to his court date, you could just see the way people look at you. And
God,
just
that's
like, you
the
don't even
worst
know who the
feeling.
fuck I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, yes,
I could
that
save your
feeling.
life. You know, I always go there.
Yeah,
It's
seriously.
like, if you're gonna treat me like that, then I'm not gonna let you know that I can save your life.
Yeah, I know.
But it's
And
freaking
even if
crazy.
you couldn't,
And even if I couldn't save them, yes,
you're still a human being.
exactly.
Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
yeah,
just so crazy. You are treated like nothing,
like,
because you're supporting somebody who's incarcerated, and
Yeah.
then I just can't even imagine, because I've never been on that side, but knowing that my husband's in there on that side and how they're treated by the people who work there, it's just awful. They you're in there, so they just think, well, you're in here, you're terrible, you're garbage, whatever.
Oh, well, I can just, from your story, or just the way you're navigating your way through it and your journey through it and your attitude about it. I mean, I think, it's just very, very, it takes a lot of strength,
Thank you.
because trying to raise a child throughout this whole thing, having things play out the way they did. When you got married, you had no idea this was going to fucking happen.
Yes.
Early beginning stages of your marriage, like,
I know.
what the fuck, like your whole life just exploded,
Yeah. It was a whirlwind.
Yeah, to see you come out on the other end, of it, and you guys, you have another year, but you're like, oh, it's not that much, but it's like, it's still a lot. Every day's a lot, you know what I mean? One day seems like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But just, I think it's very inspiring, to, if somebody does have a loved one in the same situation, that, changing maybe your perspective or your attitude towards it, that there's not, unfortunately, you just have to do your time and, take care of yourself in the meantime, grow your own life, focus on your life and taking care of yourself and, your relationships.
Right.
And you're not necessarily waiting per se to start your life, until he comes back, comes home. Like you're living your life, you're doing you. And I think that's amazing.
It really just incredible. Like,
I'm trying, you guys. I'm trying.
I think a lot of people wouldn't be able to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's so important, if somebody is going through this, that they just know that they're not alone, and that it will come to an end eventually. Obviously that, definitely depends on what, the person's in there for, but
Sure.
There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and like I said before, like, you just have to keep pushing, because your life doesn't stop because your loved one is locked up, and, my husband always says is that he's not the only one doing the time. You're doing the time too, as in I'm doing the time. And it's true. I feel like I definitely am doing this time, but also I have to keep going.
Yeah.
I can't just sit at a standstill and, be sad every day. What is that showing my son? So it's just like, we try to just make things as normal as possible. And when we have our video visits, it's super light, and, we joke around, and, so it's very, it's good. It's super good. And I think Charlie understands, like, he knows his dad is in jail. He's 3. And he's so smart. And he tells people, he's like, my dad's in jail, and then he, like, goes on about his business. And it's just like, you know what? I don't want him to feel like he can't, his truth, or, keep things or lie about things. Like, I don't want him to do that.
Feel ashamed,
I don't want him to ever feel ashamed about where his dad is, because his dad is a good man, and he's a good dad. He's a good husband. So it's just like, I just never want him to feel like afraid to be able to speak his truth. I want to be able to speak the truth. And that's kind of where I got to the point where I'm just like, I don't care. I'm going to share my story. Like, my husband is locked up. Do you want to know more? I'll tell you. Like, if you want to ask me on a personal level, I am happy to share. Like, I don't care. Obviously, I post pictures all the time of, our video visits or whatever, but I just don't want my son to ever feel like he can't be truthful about our family situation.
Yeah.
Because it's not, I'm not ashamed of it.
And you, I love that. I love that too, because you shouldn't, because it is for half of America, you know, it's a normal fucking, some people have like the normal circumstances, you know, and there's nothing wrong, and you did nothing wrong, you know, you're doing nothing wrong by being with somebody or having, you know, a marriage. You from what you guys are making it the healthiest that you can possibly have, you know, like everybody has their own situation, but in general, like I wish more people would share if they know somebody in prison or in jail, you know, because it's so fucking common.
Yeah.
It is so common. And it's not anything to be ashamed of. It's really not, you know, and I think honestly, if more people talked about their situations, it would help so many other people who are doing this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
At first.
And the stigma,
you know,
right? Fuck.
The stigma. Yes.
About hiring people that are just, you know, felons or whatever, you know what I mean? It's just like, God, I hate that. It's crazy. And your story spoke to me the most is because I personally have somebody that I know, that I love, that's in jail right now, facing charges that he could be in there for a very long time. And when I found out that he was arrested, it just fucking broke my heart. And it consumed me. Like, I just couldn't imagine being in a jail cell. I couldn't imagine him being in a jail cell. And I felt like I could not be happy, or I couldn't be joyful or anything, knowing that he was suffering in there. And it was really, so I mean, this is just my own experience, and so I can only imagine what you had to go through with your husband, because this is, you know, not my partner, but somebody that I love. And it came to a point where I think my therapist was just like, no matter how much you suffer, it's not going to take away his suffering. You know what I mean? And he wouldn't want you being there with him, you know, he would want you to be living your life, you know. And I'm just like, oh my God. So I mean, at some point I did snap out of it, like, but shit.
It takes a while. It really does take a while.
Guilty, you know?
You feel so guilty. Yes. That's like the perfect word to describe, because you feel so guilty, because you can't take it away. They literally have to sit there. And I mean, it just goes back to they're often treated very inhumanely. You know, how do you make someone sit in a cell for 23 hours a day?
Right. He had to do that too. And it's so, I just was like, oh my God, how do you even survive? Like, what are you doing in there?
How? Like, I don't understand.
And you can't, you haven't been outside once? Like, how is that even possible? You haven't even seen the sun?
It seems unconstitutional.
Like, what the fuck is that shit? Like,
I know.
A lot of people don't know this.
Yes, exactly. They don't know it. They just think that it's what TV shows. And what TV shows is very glamorized. It's just like, oh, okay, yeah, prison's not so bad. Like, sure, yeah, I could do it. No. My husband, when he was in county, and he was in county for a year, didn't see outside for a year.
Yeah, they don't do that until they get to go to prison, right? Until they actually have a little bit more freedom to like touch, you know, hug their loved ones, not be behind the glass. They can go outside in the yard, you know what I mean? But in jail, where they'll keep them for a very long time until they're convicted.
Which, you know, they're offered, you know, the right to a speedy trial, and that's often not the case. I mean, a lot of these guys will sit in county jail
for years.
Yeah.
So not even convicted.
Yeah, I think that's it's really important for people to understand, like, this is the case for your loved one, and it sounds like it was the case for your husband, that they're in their pre-conviction in a cell for 23 hours a day. Like, people really don't get that, I don't think.
They're not even
once
guilty.
Convicted, nobody should be in a cage like that. But pre-conviction, like, I just think that's
innocent until proven guilty. Like, that's some bullshit.
Exactly. It's just wild. So you're like, I'm sitting here innocent and possibly didn't even do anything to be in here, and I'm sitting in a cell for 23 hours. What? I don't get to see outside. I don't get to do.
Takes a lot of mental strength to get through that shit.
And that's why a lot of these guys come out fucked up. I mean, There's just so many stories of, people who have gone and done their time for things that they haven't done. One example is Khalif Browder. I mean, he was in prison and he was a minor. And he got out finally after doing years, and he was innocent. This was for stealing a backpack, and he didn't even steal the backpack. And he ended up committing suicide because he was so fucked up because he was, treated so poorly. First off, the system just brushed him to the side. And I mean, he was in solitary confinement for months.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
So, I mean, you think of that and your mind stops developing, and you're fucked.
Yeah.
You're so fucked. It's so sad. Like, it's inhumane. It's just terrible.
Yeah. Oh.
Haley, is there anything else that you want to really make sure that people listening understand about what this is really like?
I just want to express that it's not what it looks like. Prison is scary. Having a loved, one go to prison, and the whole process before they go to prison, it's hard. It's super hard. It's not easy. And you hear these people who are like, well, our tax dollars are paying for that. They're taken care of. They have a roof over their head. They're getting fed. It doesn't make it any less hard for these people,
Yeah, that's like the base, like the very minimum.
Yeah.
And not even only that, but it's just, I want people to understand that not everyone who goes to prison is bad. A lot of people do dumb things, but that doesn't make them a bad person. They're just caught up in the moment. And a lot of these people can come out and succeed and do good. Knowing that if you are going through this, if you have a loved one who is incarcerated, that you're not alone. There are, groups out there that you can find with people who are in similar situations that will help you through this, even if it's just talk. I've found that super helpful, or just learning the prison system, not really understanding on how things work. I was able to get onto one of these groups and ask, questions, and, everyone's super helpful. I didn't, I was super scared. I didn't know how visiting worked and what to expect. And I got on there, my little question, and everyone was super helpful. You're not alone. And there are resources out there for you as well.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I just really appreciate you coming on today and sharing that is a lot of people don't fucking want to talk about or admit to, or, and just trying to bit by bit, just trying to take away that fucking shame and stigma behind loving somebody that is incarcerated, and feeling that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with loving
I think
somebody.
That's also, super important, that I want people to know that there is nothing wrong with having a family member, a loved one, a friend, whatever, who's up. Like, don't be ashamed of that, and don't be ashamed to tell your story if you're supporting that person. Who cares?
Exactly. If you're supporting them,
And if the person you're telling to is being judgmental, then fuck them. You don't need them in your life. And I've had to learn that too. That you don't, and also you don't owe anyone anything.
But this is your life. This is your life, and this is your husband's life, your child's life, and you're just maintaining that focus on your family is where it's at.
Yes.
And I love seeing that strength of your family.
Thank you.
We can definitely tear it apart. We've definitely seen that. So,
and it's important just to keep holding on if you want to keep.
Exactly.
You got to fight for it.
Yeah, we're talking to the ones that want to hold on, want to be with that person. You know what I mean? There, of course, there's a lot of horrible things that people do.
Sure,
there's
a whole
there's a whole different thing. Yeah, but if you love somebody, it's all relative.
It's all relative. Absolutely.
Nobody wants to see their loved one in prison.
No.
Somebody that they love. Yeah. So you're a very strong woman, Haley.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I feel like it.
Good. I'm glad.
Well, thank you
Yes.
so much. I feel like
Wow.
you just have given us a lot to think about. I've learned a lot,
Yeah.
and I just want to echo what Reyna said, like really admire the way that you've approached this. I'm so excited for you, like a year from now.
Yes.
You know, I can't
So
wait
short, you guys.
to get to hear through you or through Reyna what it's like. I'm sure there's so much you're looking forward to. And, you know, this is so fucking shitty, but you guys do have like a whole life that gets to happen after this.
Mhm.
And, you
Yes.
know, I think it's really amazing that you have fought for the person you love. You know,
Yes.
like you clearly fight for what you love. And that is a really amazing thing.
Yes, I agree. And it really is a short amount of time if you really think about it. And I'm just so grateful for that because I mean, by the time he comes home, Charlie will be 4, and that's still so much of his like
Oh, totally.
child life,
Yes.
you know. So the stuff that he's missed out on is very small.
Yeah.
You know, he'll get to be there for so much more, and that's
Yeah.
that's so cool to me.
Mhm.
And not only that, but our lives and how we're going to move forward in our future. You know,
Mhm.
it's super exciting to think about it, and I think that's what keeps us going. You know,
Yeah.
is the just knowing that it's so short. You know, and it feels like it's been a long time, but there are days that it seem like, okay, this month went really fast. You
Mhm.
know, so it's short, and we can do this.
You
You
can
know,
do
we'll
it.
get there.
And you are doing
Yeah.
it.
And we're doing it. Yeah.
So hang
Yeah.
in there, as you say.
Hang in.
Well, we're
Yes.
cheerleading for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. You, Charlie and Albert.
Yes.
Oh, my little family.
Yes. So cute.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us,
Yes.
for listening to Haley's story.
Mhm.
Do you love someone who's incarcerated? Let us know. Is this something you've been wanting to have space to talk about? Like join us in the conversation. Haley's been courageous in showing us that there is no shame in talking about it. And so if this is you, just know, like, we're here. We talk about it.
We fucking talk about it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Haley.
Thank you.
Thanks for
so
having me,
much.
guys.
Have a good night.
Thank you.